I remember Leah from my first memories are actually when she was younger, but my strong memories of her are of her on the basketball court in high school. And yeah, she was a pretty ferocious basketball player. And she went from Joseph High School to Lewis and Clark College in Portland, where she majored in art. She moved back here almost 20 years ago now, right, Leah?
Yeah, 18.
Yeah.
18.
Yeah. And her daughter is now graduated from high school and has traveled around the world, but is she at Lewis and Clark now?
No, she's actually in the Rolfing program in Boulder, the Ida Rolf Institute for body work. I could really use her for my back
you
right
could
now.
use her now, right? Anyway, then Leah comes back here and goes to work for a bank with that art major. But she did marketing for community bank for 17 years. I couldn't believe that. And now has opened her store, The Element, in Joseph. And she sells furnishing and artwork and her own encaustics, and also is doing some teaching of encaustics. So with that, I'm going to just let Leah take it from there.
All right. Thanks, Rich. Thanks for this opportunity. I wasn't sure if anyone would really come in and listen. Thanks, everyone, for taking the time to do that. So yeah, like Rich said, quite a long time at the bank. I kept saying for years that I had the most creative job you could have in a bank. That was my excuse for not focusing on my artwork, is it was still a creative job, but I kind of finally came to decide I didn't have to keep working at the bank. So, and then I kind of proved that statement wrong anyway with making this new business in an old bank, and it's much more creative than bank marketing. So, so yeah, I think I'm calling it a little midlife transition. I just had a lot of life changes all at once, but yeah, in March, I went ahead and let's see, March 31st was my last day at the bank, and I opened Element here at Stuart Jones's old gallery space on May 18th. So just about 6 months into this new business and having a lot of fun. It's been really, really great. I really like that there's no committees needed for any decisions. I just ask myself if I agree with myself, and then I usually do, and we just make the next thing happen. So it's great. I learned it about 9 years ago, and I'm sure some of you might be aware. I mean, Will over at B Crow B, we grew up together, so we ended up, we were just looking for a new inspiration. We had been painting, he'd been doing like inks and acrylics, and I was doing acrylic and like pastels, and so went and found an encaustic workshop in Whitefish, Montana, and learned from Shauna Moore. I'll show you a little bit of the store. This is one of my encaustic paintings. It's actually one of the only landscapes completely finished that I still have available. It's called Distant Devils. It's the Seven Devils view. Great artwork I've got from MC Reardon. She's actually a Portland artist, but she does some really amazing work of this area. And these are just newly hung up, this beautiful one of the canyon. Pretty fun. Got some bronze by Shelley Curtis. And Shelley, you might see her from time to time. She's been helping me at the store every now and then when I need a little assistance. And so she's been really great to have in here. I have another new artist. This bird is an oil painting. This is David de Villiers. He was a professor at Whitman and at Washington State and at Eastern. I've got a few more of his pieces I just need to hang up still, but got some, these are some little photo transfers, which is something that you can do with Encaustic. So I do these little animals in clothes and then photo transfer them onto these little medallions. Those are kind of a fun thing. I've got some cool, this one is still available. These don't last for long, but this is a cool print from the 1910 of Wallowa Lake with these draft horses. It's hard because of the reflection to show it very well, but then this really cool old frame. So David Weaver's been finding those for me, and we've been selling a lot of them. There's a view of the whole store. There's another beautiful one of MC Reardon's from the head of the lake and the moraine. Yeah, I've got a kitchen section with some local hand-blown glasses. This is Kevin Boylan in LeGrand. He's been doing those sets for me. They're going pretty well. I've got a section of charcuterie type of items. So if you have a Thanksgiving something you're getting together, there's some really good nuts and sauces and mustards and cutting boards and all that kind of thing. So another couple good items as far as Christmas gifts. Got lots of candles and things like that. There's even some other local artists. Joelle Fuchs, she does these bronze handles, which are really cool. I've got a section of some of my encaustic paintings that are printed on cards. You might recognize these are some prints of some of my, it's called the Woods Electric series I did in 2010. And it's a limited edition print series. So this is, I am almost finished with, this is my newest painting. It's called Tamarack Gold. That's the Wallowa Mountains there, like Hurricane Creek. And I'm using like electric skillets, which I can always find at Sir Optimist. Someone always has gotten rid of an electric skillet. So I'm pretty lucky that I've got, well, this amazing setup. Stuart had these exhaust systems put in for his metal grinding work. I'm not sure how familiar everyone is with encaustic itself. So encaustic is beeswax and tree resin. It's a really ancient form of artwork. They can date it back to like the 5th century BC. The Greeks started using those materials to patch their boats because the resin makes the wax stronger, but the wax is impervious to moisture. So it was a great combination there for their boats. And then they started adding natural pigments into that medium, and then they could decorate the boats while they were sealing it. And then other Greek artists started taking that material and using it in sculpture and paintings. And then those boats traveled, obviously, at some point, and in Egypt, they started doing it in about 4th century BC, where you've probably seen some of those Fayum funeral portraits, they're called. They're the kind of rounded portraits. They would paint directly on the material that was a mummifying material. And so it'd be a portrait of the person that was mummified. So they and they last forever because of the fact that it's impervious to moisture. So that's how we know that they're that, it's been being used for that long. Back then, of course, they were just using fire, and what a process it must have been. This is what the medium looks like. So you melt beeswax and tree resin, and then you use it while it's hot and liquid. And you just keep those hot as well with an electric skillet. You can add oil paint in. So you have to fuse each layer together. So you use a heat gun or a blowtorch. The blowtorch is really, I feel pretty cool when I'm using it, but I don't like the heat very much. So I just go back to the heat gun. The process is really layering. It's a lot of layers that are used. So like in this little piece, this has some pastels. They come in some cake forms, so you can kind of put them on with a sponge, and it's sort of like putting on makeup, the way that you can blend the colors. And then this is kind of an in process. These are the size that we work on in the workshop. And this is just at one stage. So you can see you're able to add texture to the piece. That's a really fun process. You use all sorts of tools that are also fun to look at Seroptimist and yard sales. You can carve into the surface. So I use this one a lot for fine grasses and things. And it's a really fun process because when you're carving, you can't see it, but then you put oil paint into what you've carved. And then when you wipe the rest of that paint off the surface, then you see these little details of what that texture was that you created. So it's kind of this reveal process that's pretty interesting. It really just has to be a porous surface, but you wouldn't want it to be flexible. So like a canvas would be tough with the wax and resin because then it could move and then it could crack. This really interesting part is a photocopy transfer. So like this black piece is just a printed like toner photocopy piece. And when the wax is warm, you can put that face down and you burnish it, like basically rubbing it with your finger and then like a back of a spoon. And it really just gets the surface of the paper in contact with the warm wax. And then you spray the paper and rub it off, and all that's left is the toner. There's so many things. I mean, there's things I haven't even got the opportunity to try experimenting with yet. You can put fabric down on wood, you know, so you could have a fabric layer. Collaging, you can put actual items in the wax and then cover them up. I feel like it's pretty fun, and it's easy to learn, and people are just really, it's a really neat material to watch. I do actually have, well, I've been doing the workshops on Fridays, Friday evenings from 5:30 to 7:30. It is just a one-time type of a workshop. Stuff like that just kept falling into place when I was thinking about doing this, that, well, there's already a ventilation system, and you do need that for encaustic.
Thank you very much. I didn't mention at the beginning that Leah was also an original board member at the Josephy Center. If there aren't any other questions, we'll let her go back to work, but please visit the shop. And I don't know if you'll talk me into encaustics, but I'll come by and sniff the good beeswax.
Thank you, everyone. Bye-bye.